We got breaking news. Just moments ago, 6'5", 300-pound defensive lineman Aiden Breeland committed to Oregon. It's been a roller coaster of a recruitment, but the Ducks came all the way back. And on Saturday, the number 5 ranked defensive lineman in America announced his decision to commit to Oregon. He chose the Ducks over Miami and Georgia. Those were really his top 3. We're going to get into it in this video with Oregon insider Justin Hopkins. But before we do that, Oregon fans, smash that subscribe button for me. It's an exciting time. We're talking Ducks recruiting. Subscribe. All right, let's bring on Justin Hopkins of Scoop Duck. Justin, the timeline, if we go back, it was really Oregon trending early in this recruitment. We hit summer. He took that official visit to Athens. It seemed like the Dogs were in charge. All the way through the end of summer, he takes an early unofficial visit to UGA. It looked like they had him locked up. But then on October 1st, he announces, he says, I'm going to commit in 2 weeks on October 14th. And in those 2 weeks, Oregon just really starts trending. What happened? How did they pull this off?
Yeah, I think that fall unofficial that you spoke of to Georgia was really like the worry point, right? I mean, you felt like Oregon was in a pretty good spot, and then that visit happens like, maybe not. And I think, those last 2 weeks there, just kind of leading up to the recruitment, one thing, I know I've talked about it before, I'll talk about it again, distance becomes a factor in those late hours of any recruitment, right? Oregon is obviously closer to Aiden Breeland than Georgia is. So, that doesn't happen often for the Ducks, but it did here. Secondly, Georgia is Georgia, and there's no doubt it's a great program. If you want to get developed, they will do that for you. I think Oregon offers a lot of the same, much newer, of course, and Dan Lanning's really kind of showing that he can do that. But they prioritized Breland really early on and made him feel like a top priority. And I think those relationships that they built, over the 6 months, 7 months, whatever, the timeline was, I think that's what really won out in the end. Just the fact that possibly he felt more comfortable with that staff, that it's closer to home, that you're still getting that opportunity to be developed and play in a top-notch defense. I think when you take all those things and you kind of add it up with the distance, I think that's what ended up making it the right call for Aiden Breeland at the end of the day.
Well, they picked up a big one out of Mater Dei High School in California. And Breland goes 6'5", 300. He's a versatile defensive lineman. How do you think he fits into the Oregon defensive scheme when he arrives on campus?
Yeah, that's the great part about a guy like Breland, right? You can move him around all over the front. You could probably even stand him up if you want to because he's that athletic. So, I think Dan Lanning has shown that he has no problem, with guys in that 270 to 300-pound range. Brandon Dorless, Jordan Birch, both those guys this year moved around. I think you can look at what they've done with those guys and mix them up and move them around, making offensive linemen have to think about where they are. And creating mismatches for them. I think you look at what they're doing there and say, hey, that's what Aiden Breeland will fill in. Oregon did do a good job, signing a good defensive line class last year. But, a guy like Aiden Breeland, that's a guy that comes in and you fully expect to maybe not start per se, but he's going to see reps and he's going to play and he's going to be pushing for playing time. So, to answer your question, I think he'll move all around up front. And he's got a lot of guys around him, which was probably a huge attraction too, because Oregon has prioritized defensive line recruiting.
And what a crazy week for Oregon fans, because just like I said, 2 weeks ago, Breland was trending towards UGA. This week, early on in the week, things start picking up. You put your pick in on Tuesday for Breland, and he's been trending to Oregon ever since. Now, on Sunday, Duck fans got a bit of a surprise, and that was when Elijah Rushing, you know him, he took an official visit to Oregon over the summer. He's a 5-star edge out of the state of Arizona, commits to the Arizona Wildcats in the summer. 2 months later, he's ready to reopen things, and as soon as he does, the picks start coming in for the Ducks. So, Justin, what are your sources saying and when it comes to Elijah Rushing?
Yeah, this could be a really fun couple of weeks for Duck fans, I suppose, with the Aiden Breeland commitment. And then, of course, should the Ducks be able to beat the Huskies, you go back to Elijah Rushing, another 5-star. That's an incredible looking player, just a totally different skill set than Breeland, right? So they would complement each other incredibly well. And I think that it's no secret Oregon was on campus just ahead of his decommitment. They have not relented the whole time since he committed to Arizona in July. And again, I just said this a moment ago, I'll reiterate it. Dan Lanning prioritizes defensive line recruiting, especially on the West Coast. And I think rushing's been a guy that they've shown a ton of interest in all along and prioritized in the cycle, much like Breland. I feel like the Ducks are the team to beat right now. Now, will he make a decision this week? Probably not. But if they're in the driver's seat, really, it's a great spot to be in at this point for Dan Lanning and Tosh Lupoy.
All right, and then they're sitting in a great position for Jericho Johnson as well. So this D-line class could have maximum results by the time National Signing Day rolls around. But today, it's all about Aiden Breeland, the 6'5", 300-pounder out of Mater Dei High School in California. He's committed to the Oregon Ducks over Georgia, over Miami. Whew. Justin Hopkins from Scoop Duck, thank you for dropping by the Inside Scoop and talking about this latest commitment.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.